I didn't know till I met a surveyor who told me about old maps that showed how much of this area was wetland before contact. Like all the foreshore area was wetland. There was areas where it was higher, but for the most part, the whole foreshore was wetland.
That is my lovely guest this week, Carrie Ried. I'm Taryn Picard, and this is What About the Wetlands, a podcast where we talk all about everything wetland related in central Vancouver Island. This week, I have the pleasure of speaking to Carrie about wetlands from a First Nations point of view. Now, I've known Carrie for quite a few years, and every time I get a chance to chat with her, I just feel so privileged because she is such a wealth of knowledge. She lives bringing back tradition to her culture in so many ways, and we are so lucky that she is willing to share that information with us. So I hope you enjoy this chat. It's definitely different than any other podcast interview I've done for this series, and I really enjoyed it, so I hope you do too.
My name's Carrie Ried and I'm from Qualicum First Nation. I love to be outside and I love to hang out with plants and people.
That's so lovely. And you know so much about plants. Okay, I got my first question for you if you're ready for it.
I'm ready.
How do you define wetlands?
How do I define? I think it's land that holds water.
That's good. That's straightforward.
So if I think about, like the land used to hold so much water and it doesn't anymore, and I think that I think there's places in the area that held more water, way more water than it used to. And the water, as a kid, I didn't like it, right? Wetlands, because they're hard to get through. They're hard to slog through. You can't swim. You get wet. You don't know what's under it. It was everywhere. So finding a trail or a root system to go over the wet part was pretty cool. I didn't know till I met a surveyor who told me about old maps that showed how much of this area was wetland before contact. Like all the foreshore area was wetland. There was areas where it was higher, but for the most part, the whole foreshore was wetland. And lots was, and I think that understanding is not there. Like how much of the, those estates along the beach were filled in for homes, or they were on spots where there was an old village site because that was available for people to build on before contact, and the people knew it was dry. So, but the ones that weren't were filled in, and you can even look at some of the old photos in the museum and you can see people trying to get through. There's one I pass quite often going up to Courtney, and you can see where that photo actually was, and the people being stuck in the wet, like in the not able to get the wagon train through. So I think that when people started moving by land and not water, that really had the biggest impact on wetland. Everything got filled in or cut down for road systems, and there's old photographs there too, like around French Creek, like the people standing in front of the big giant fir trees before they got cut down to push the road through. And it's kind of it's out of our reality, right, what that forest was like, because it doesn't exist anymore. Big shade-grown trees. I can still have people come and tell me, well, this is an old growth tree, but it's not shade-grown anymore. So all that shade allowed the ground to be wet. It wasn't dried out with the sun and the winds. But that's in nobody's living memory anymore. And it won't be, like it's gone. Like it's not coming back. Even if we stopped everything today, it would take 500 years to get back there, right? That's generations and generations from now. And if I think about it too hard, my heart breaks. So I have to really talk about doing the best we can with what we've got.
It's crazy when you start, the more you know about like how nature works, and you think like, oh, what I see now is what's going to be affected in 20 years, but it might be like 60 years before you see the effects of even what you've done today or what's happened today.
So we have to go forward with faith, right? That nature will, if we help, nature will look after itself. You could build a house. The old people would pop a plank off a tree, right? The whole tree didn't have to die. You could just take a plank off the tree and then build your home. And I think that that sense doesn't exist anymore. That's everybody needs their own bedroom with their own house, with their own, like, that communal living. People don't have that in their thought process very often anymore. It's like everybody needs to get locked up in their own space.
When you're talking about how there was, sites that the villages were on near the water, so there was some areas, I guess, few and far between, it sounds like, that were like flat and fairly dry that they were able to build on, or would they have had to like alter the land somehow to put villages
Doesn't
on?
have to be flat. If
Okay.
you, like Little Qualicum, you can see the terracing still on the north side of the river where the longhouses would have been going up.
Okay.
And actually they were up high on the bank on the south side of the river too. That was a huge village site. So it didn't necessarily have to be flat. Most of the village sites were near a freshwater source. And then if you go back in time, you know, when we dig up remains, or the archaeologist or a developer digs up remains, and we have some contribution to that, you can see how things have shifted over time, right? Like this village might be 2,000 years old and it's not in a recent place. Like it stayed the same all the time. Things
Right.
shifted, right? And even, I always think it's interesting with climate change, right? We had village sites on the top of the mountains, and my auntie used to talk about, we have
Oh,
village
wow.
sites that existed below the low tide line. So, so our history on this earth is so long. In our teachings, we didn't cross a land bridge. That was somebody else's idea. People like to think we all came from Europe, right? Like that's some kind of ethnocentric thinking. It's like the center of the universe. But our teachings say we've always been here, and we're always going to be here. So it's our cultural duty to look after the land.
Right. You're not going anywhere else. You got to take care of what you see in front of you.
Yeah, and that's got messed up over the years with residential school, and people got to earn a living, and monetary system, all those things, right? So not everybody in our communities thinks that, but I think it's an old cultural truth.
Makes sense.
There is a smaller village site at the mouth of French Creek, and a big one at Little Qualicum. There was one on the south end of Qualicum Beach. But they weren't all there at the same time, although lots of them were. I mean, smallpox. Smallpox came before the explorers came. Smallpox came on the south wind. And it was airborne. Like the smallpox blankets are real, that's documented, but they weren't necessary because it could be passed through the air. And so that's how come nobody fought back when the ships came. They were
Too tired.
and most people had died. It was
Right.
This was the last area of the island to get discovered because people went around the bottom end and around the top end, and this area they got to last. And the biggest motivation here was that trail from at the Big Qualicum heading to Port Alberni.
So was there quite a bit of travel like inland, or were you guys pretty much just like along? Because you're talking about how like waterways were the main form of transportation, right? But then there was like obviously like you're talking about the trail between Port and Qualicum.
Yeah, that was Salish territory around Port Alberni before contact. The Port Alberni people came in later, so that northern Salish kind of went around to Comox Lake and up that way, which is easy access by trail and short if you're not driving on a road, right?
Yeah, right. It's more direct, I guess, hey, than now. Now you got to drive so far around to get there.
Yeah. There used to be a longhouse at near Cameron Lake. So people lived inland too. I mean, it's like you hang out with all the same people, and then maybe you're there all winter, and then in the summer it's like, oh, I'm going off to the top of the mountain for a couple months, right? Like people traveled more in the summer, and there was certain, you could gather things in certain areas, and we're going to take our family and go to Denman and pick berries or pick apples for the summer, that kind of thing. So that happened a lot in the summers. People traveled. There was a big village site on Denman too, though, and Laskeety.
And those were like all year village sites, or those were just okay?
Yeah.
Cool. You got to go see different friends in the summertime.
Yeah.
So on our like Hamilton Marsh tour that we did, I don't know how many months ago now, you were talking a lot about like how much the marshes were used for food traditionally.
Food, and for the not, I think probably less food and more the cattails was an important part of our history, and the other rushes. I can't remember their names.
Bulrushes?
Yeah. So they would be woven into big mats, and they'd line the inside of the longhouses, because when they're dry they shrink, and when they're wet they swell. So they become waterproof in the winter on the inside of the longhouses, and when it's summer and they shrink, then it allows the breeze through. And the same in the summer, there would be tents. People would travel. They'd be like rolled up mats that make into tents, right? So when it rains,
cool.
they swell, and then you have a waterproof tent. So bulrushes were huge in our culture. So gathering rushes, and they would be refreshed every couple of years because they're natural, right? And there was a big process to making them, and these big long needles that would get threaded through, and it's pretty cool. And they'd be creased. If you creased them, they didn't break off as quickly if you didn't crease them. So lots of technology, I think, came from marshes, probably more than food sources. You can eat like the roots and things of rushes. You can grind them into like almost like a floury, pasty kind of thing. But I think more it would be gathering rush than food.
Cool.
Although I did see silverweed at Hamilton Marsh. So that root. It was a delicacy. It was very time consuming to gather, so it was like only the important people got to eat it.
It was the caviar.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And the apples like to grow, like I suspect this was wet because you've got grass growing along there, like marsh grass.
Yeah, it gets really wet.
Apples, they like to be around wet. So
okay.
This was probably largely wetland in here too before it was cleared.
Yeah, this whole thing I think there's like that area, the field over there is wetland. This will be wet like December. This will all be wet. That's just like a mini wetland there. There's kind of like a little dugout in it so it doesn't stay as wet anymore. But yeah, and it's interesting like living here on and off for the past 15 years. Lots of the properties have like dammed stuff or done whatever, and it's really interesting to see how the water levels in this area have changed because of like people just doing things on the land, let alone like actually paving and developing. And yeah, it's interesting for sure. So going back to kind of talking about how the land doesn't hold as much water anymore, do you think that's specifically because of development, or is that for other reasons too? No?
I think contact created climate change, because this would have all been shade.
Oh, true, yeah.
Everything would have been shade. The whole island was covered in shade, and that allowed the water to slow filter through the ground.
Right. Yeah, it would have slowed the process down so much, hey? Yeah, that forest right there behind us, actually, you can really tell that walking through it, because there's all year round there's water just sitting in it. There used to be like a little creek from like a spring that would run through it. It dries out now because I think the water tables dropped so much with everybody that's moved here, but yeah, it's such a huge difference between there to here, like July, you'll see this just brown, and then that'll be still wet and green in it. It's really, huge change. This place is so cool. Like, coming back to the wetlands again, so there's like a kind of like a dugout I don't know if they must have dug it out. Yeah, like in the field next to here. And then around it, there's like, it floods in the wintertime, so it turns into a marsh, the whole kind of front field, and then the side beside the pond does. And we've had like, there's been river otters that have come up, like we're quite a ways from the river or the ocean, right? They've come up. There's herons that stop in there all the time. There's an eagle that nests over there that comes in, like hunts ducks and stuff in the pond. So it's like all these cool things you can just see from the window, just looking down. I'm wondering about now, when you're talking about the village sites and the terraces, so those would have been like built in intentionally for longhouses to sit on the sides then? Like the terraces weren't natural terraces, were they?
Right. So in this area, one of the unique features was they used to actually dig into the ground for the houses.
Oh yeah,
So they try to take advantage of the geothermal energy, right?
cool.
And the house posts weren't as high. So some of them used to back onto.
Oh, like kind of into the hill.
Yeah.
That's cool. I know like the interior Salish do that too, like the seal
Yeah.
Penticton area. I didn't realize that. That's pretty cool.
Like pit houses.
Yeah, right. That makes a lot of sense. It'd be so much warmer in the winter. You know, I guess cooler in the summer too. But the heat didn't really, like there wasn't much heat here in the summer, right?
Wasn't? No, it wasn't near as hot as it is now.
No, I mean when I was a kid, I remember like being 12 and going to the beach, and it was windy and it was only 24 degrees, and I was like, this is so stupid. It's so cold. I just want 30 degrees, and we'd get like one day of 30 and it'd be like the best day of the summer for me. And now it's like you get 35 for like half the summer, and it's such a quick change. I mean, I guess to me, that's like what, 20 years? 20 plus years. That's still a long time. Or a short time, it seems to me, for that big of a change. That's like a 10-degree difference on average.
And I remember coming back on these roads as a kid, and you couldn't even move on the road because the road was moving with baby frogs.
Oh wow.
Like not just this area,
Yeah.
like the whole road. You couldn't even walk without killing 20 baby little frogs.
That's crazy. That would have been probably the tree frogs, hey?
That or the little western toads.
Oh, okay.
So I'm 60, so that's probably 50 years ago, right? Yeah. The whole, like it looked like the ground was moving. I can't show anybody that, right?
No.
But my dad used to say that too. We'd get all excited. We'd see a pod of killer whales and he'd go, you guys don't know nothing. He goes, we'd have to pull the boat off for half an hour and wait for the pod to go by. They'd be that big, right?
Wow.
And he goes, now you get all excited and you see 4 or 5.
Yeah. Very excited. Every time you see a single orca, it's like the best day of the whole week. Yeah.
And he said they'd take half an hour. There were so many of them. Ducks, when you were talking about the eagle getting the ducks, like there's just no ducks. I'm just like, I go out to the mouth of the river and there's no ducks. You go up the river, there's no ducks. They're gone. There's no ducks.
Has that been like a recent thing, or has that been, yeah, because I remember it like, I don't know, I think the last few years has been quite a few, but I don't watch that much for ducks, so I could be very wrong about that.
There's just no ducks compared to what there used to be.
Is there anything that you've seen that has rebounded or like changed for the better as far as like populations go, or is it pretty much all decreased? You've seen the salmon start to come back a bit the last couple of years?
But you know, they're not the same. They're getting smaller. And in our river, all of a sudden, because the river above us is gone, the creek above us is going dry, we're getting all their pinks.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's again the wetland stuff, right? Like there's just no place holding water. And if you look at the mountains, there's no snow on any of the mountains. And I keep thinking, is there going to be enough water for the fish next year's salmon run, right? Because that's where that water comes from. I don't know if I see things, I haven't seen anything rebound. But I also see things like they're doing something about the Canada geese can change the course of the river, right? Like they're awful. Yeah. They're invasive. They were brought here in the 30s by some hunter from Ontario who wanted to hunt geese.
Oh, really? Was it all of them? Because I've heard there's 2 species of
They're,
Canada geese.
they're
and
not from BC.
Neither of them are?
No.
Okay.
So they're an invasive species. So they changed the whole mouth of Little Qualicum River. So they're doing all kinds of work there to change it back. But they went and they studied the fish weirs that they found dug up in Comox, and that's what they're using as their guide for making
For like renaturalizing?
yeah, so they make these little fences. People kill the beavers off all the time. Oh no, the beaver's building a dam, the world's going to end. But actually, you know, that actually helps feed the land too. But fisheries is always killing beavers. And
There's beavers in Englishman, pretty close to like where the hatchery is. And the guy that is like responsible for that area told me that he breaks up the beaver dam every day because they're so quick at building. And they just like build it overnight and he comes in the morning and breaks it up.
Yeah.
But those are, I think that's all man-made channels that are on the side there too that they're damming. It's beautiful in there though. It's so much cooler in there than it is like in the planted forests that are further down when you're there in the summertime. So do you have any suggestions for how people could get involved or changes that could be made that like the average citizen could do from your point of view that would make these things hopefully go in a more positive trajectory instead of
go
what
plant
they
some
feel like?
trees.
Yeah.
Go plant some trees. Empty your water bottle.
onto the land?
Yeah, I think that there's probably so much water because people drink this much of their water and then they leave it and they don't remember which one's theirs and then it gets left. And I always think that's our water shortage. It's all in these half-empty water bottles in the landfill.
Yeah, I guess, and when they're directly pulling out of Rosewall Creek, which is like right down the road, it's hard to ignore that too, right? There's that bottle packing plant right there. Yeah.
I don't know. Just do more. I think that's it. And I mean, just do a little bit more. Put some effort into it. And it's hard to, because we live in a world that's so material, right? So everything's material. I gotta have this, I gotta have this, I gotta have this. Like, we don't gotta have it. One of our really strict traditional teachings was about not wasting, like not taking advantage of the land. So you only take what you need. And I find people just take everything now. And it's like, even the cedar roses, I have issues with people selling cedar roses at the craft fairs because that's not necessary to our survival. And I get it, it's income for people, and I get it, it's a beautiful art, but that was how we were taught. You just take a little bit, you just take what you need. You don't take it all. Or you don't take too much. But it goes in opposition to developers, right? Where they want everything.
And I think it's hard too for people when you're seeing things change so fast and people are losing their stability and their sense of safety. It's hard to leave something when you're in that kind of like fear and scarcity mindset, and that's been built into Eurocentric culture, especially for a very, very long time. So shifting that and accepting that like you're sharing with animals too. Like you think of going out into the forest and finding like mushrooms or something, and mushrooms are such a big thing now, and people will take like an entire patch instead of like leaving half of them for like the slugs or the whoever else is out there eating, the deer or whatever. It's hard to, people's minds don't think about the fact that you're in relationship with all these other creatures that you share space with.
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard to change that mindset when you haven't been taught that from a young age. Not that it's impossible, and we should all be putting more and more effort into it, but it's not easy. It's an uphill battle for a while, for sure.
Yeah.
But there are still places like this. This is real pretty. Lots of places on the reserve, too, that are absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, but they're not the original forest, right? That's all.
Yeah.
There was an Indian agent who cut down all the trees on the res in the 1920s.
What did he do with them?
Sold them.
Just sold them?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not the original island. in even like the number of alder trees that grow, like there didn't used to be lots of alder trees. Now there's alder trees everywhere. They're not a bad thing. It's just a different forest. Like even, so if we let the forest take back its space, the alder trees would disappear.
Right. Yeah, because they're kind of like a recolonizing tree, right? They take over more empty space, and also where water is, they hold a lot of water.
And light, they like the light.
Mm.
So I don't want to give up hope. I don't want to say, but sometimes it feels hopeless. And I'm out there all the time cutting down invasive species and blah, blah, blah. But it's kind of like, if I'm the only one doing it, we're not getting anywhere, right? Like we really need a active group of people all participating. And some of the invasive plants, like the holly's like so thirsty. You can use holly for firewood, but you have to dry it for 2 years because it's so thirsty. But it'll go in and it'll take the moisture from other plants. Like it will kill other plants. Or I'm dealing with a knapweed. So knapweed will put out a chemical signature into the soil that says nobody else can grow around me. So when you see knapweed, you'll see them kind of by themselves. There's no other plants around them because they're quite a colonizing plant. And sometimes I go, I'm the only one here digging these up. Like I feel like, I don't know, I want more people out there engaged, but I don't know how we get people engaged.
If people wanted to be engaged, is there like a way that you would suggest them learning more or joining a group or something so that they could get involved like that?
I don't know if there's a group. There's the Invasive Species Council of BC, and then there's the Coastal Invasive Species. Coastal Invasive Species Committee, their website sucks. And then the BC one, it's like you need a dictionary to read it. It's not plain language. The Sea to Sky one I quite like that one. And the City of Vancouver has a great one too.
So people can just go to the website and kind of learn which plants are invasive and which ones they should be looking out for and go forward that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is a lot, and a lot of and there's lots of different groups, right? Like there's Save the Ducks and Save the Forest and Save the Old Growth and Wildlife. Everybody's kind of on their own, which is good. So there's lots of different, because there's so many directions to come at it. So the wetlands as a breeding ground for ducks is important, right? And the little fish that live there that, like there's the little sticklebacks on Texada, right? They're going extinct because there's all these other invasive species in the water.
Yeah, we were talking to the mayor of Nanaimo. He was talking about how they used to go and shoot ducks at the marsh for food, and how that's just like a ton of ducks there, and like there's so much like shot in the water there probably because of how many ducks they used to shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it used to be like a food source for the community, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what you'd have to do now even to have like duck as a food source, if there was enough duck to have as a food source.
I don't know anything about hunting for non-Indigenous people.
Yeah, fair enough.
We just go get the ducks or swans.
Yeah.
That was the story I was telling somebody about watching the baby geese come up over the bank. And I said to my dad, what do they taste like? And he's like, I don't know. I was like, what do you mean you don't know? Because they lived off the land.
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't know, swans are good eating.
Didn't have to go for the little ones.
It's like, well, why wouldn't you have eaten the geese? And he goes, well, there weren't any. I was like, oh. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I wonder if, because there's so many bullfrogs now, the bullfrogs will eat the gosling, or not, well, maybe the goslings too, but the ducklings for sure. I wonder if the population has decreased because of that.
I'm sure it has.
And because, yeah, most of the ponds that are still around are not, they're the mineral pools or whatever, they're the longer standing water, so the bullfrogs get a lot bigger in them than they do in the
And people
smaller
don't like to
ponds.
kill them. They'll
Yeah.
kill a plant, but they don't like to, like the rabbits, right? They won't kill a bunny. It's like, that's a food source. They did a cull of the Canada geese, and I know Cobox did a whole bunch of sausage. I think Nanoose did too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's a
good.
food source. Same as, I don't think I want to eat a frog. I think that, yeah, that's curious. So I'm not sure if there was a word for marsh, because it was everywhere, right? So there's words for lots of things, and that somebody else might know the word. But it was probably more acknowledged as a place where you go gather this. So we would know it as that instead of naming it like a lake or a river.
Right, you probably had like numerous names for different types of marshes too, more than we do, right? Because there would have been more involvement in, like, I would think you'd have a more in-depth understanding of how the water sat in the land or on the land than we do.
Traditionally, but I'm not sure because nobody in my community lived in a time when there was an old growth forest, right?
Right.
That even my grandpa would have been, so he was born in 1900, and even by then the roads were starting. So I think that, I mean, different things happen. I had this same experience. I was trying to find a word for elephant seal, and I couldn't find a word for elephant seal. I'm asking everyone. I'll take any Salish word for elephant seal. And one of my, because they were here and then they went away and then they came back a long time later, and so people quit using because they weren't there anymore. And so my friend said, we're at the age of extinction for some words. And so it's true. So we could do a bit more research about marsh. But I also think that it was so much just a part of the landscape, right? When the language had primacy, it was so much just, wetland was just so normal. It was almost like the dry land was more important because you had to have a trail to go up to the river, up somewhere that you weren't going to be, because you're barefoot, right? So sometimes you stick your foot in that and there's a branch coming up. So you had to walk cautiously on a trail. So it makes more sense to me that there would be a word for a trail than wetland.
Right. I love that. It's just so interesting. You learn so much from, especially in learning anything about Indigenous languages, you just learn so much about like the land and the place.
I know, and it's like I'm always learning too. Like I just learned a word. There's a word for the ripple a fish makes on calm water. Like there's a word for that.
That's so
It's got
cool.
its own word.
Yeah.
I just thought that was so cool.
Is there a different word for each different fish and the different ripple they
I
make?
think it was just a different, there's a word for rippling that's
Right.
kind of related, but specific to if you're out hunting and you know that water's rippling because there's a fish there, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's your survival, right? Is knowing those kinds of things.
Yeah, all these things you don't think about when you don't have that relationship to the land you're on, or water, the water you're using.
And there was different types of canoes, right? Like you see the big ocean going canoes now where there's skinny little race canoes, but there were beach canoes. Like there was different shapes of canoes and sizes of canoes for different, like if you were on a marsh, you would have a different canoe than you wouldn't have the big ocean going canoe or a race canoe on it. You'd have a smaller, flatter canoe that you'd take on a marsh to harvest.
Is there any remnants of those around? I have not seen anything other than the big ocean going canoes and the race canoes, I think.
I don't know if anybody makes them anymore. You can find pictures of them, old photographs. There's a cool one out of Cowichan where they're, I think they're at Somanas where they're harvesting in a canoe.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I'm just like picturing them as like flat and shallow, but now I'm gonna have to go look it up. Yeah.
Flat and shallow. I always refer to them as beach canoes. And most of the canoes were made out of cedar, but sometimes they were made out of cottonwood.
Oh, really? So were they like hollowed out like a cedar canoe? Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
cool. They weren't made like a birch bark canoe. They were like a
Right, dug
same-
out.
Huh.
And when you fall a tree, you put your log in the water. So if you fell a tree out in the forest, you still want to try and get it in water because it'll roll so where the bottom stays natural.
Oh.
So that's where you put the bottom of your canoe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to put the log in the water before you do that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, so much technology. You just don't even know. That's super cool. Do you think they still do that? Yeah.
They do.
Well, thank you so much for coming and doing this. It's always so interesting to chat with you about these things because I always learn something, and it's not well-known knowledge that you have. It should be. We should all know this. We should all know all these things, and we should have been taught so much more history than we are. So it's a privilege to get to speak to you and learn it. So thank you very much.
Thanks.